Ohma is a crazy good fighter and he's super ripped, but could he be a bodybuilder? Let's find out. Now we all know that Ohma can kick some serious ass, and he's had an amazing physique transformation himself. He's went from being kind of a normal looking skinny dude to someone that's absolutely jacked and super ripped. But is he ripped enough to be a bodybuilder? Now if you've been following my content for long enough, you already know the answer to this, but I wanted to review this as well as some other characters and go back into greater depth and just really break down their physique from a more analytical perspective. And if you'll take a look at our scoring here, this is how all bodybuilding is scored. At least this is the basics. So you have muscle mass, symmetry, conditioning, and proportions. So we're going to be looking at all four of those factors and then tallying up his overall total to see if he could actually compete with the best of the best. So as you can see, like we said, Ohma has had a crazy transformation. He's went from scrawny, skinny dude to really ripped to holy crap, super buff. And I've placed on here some of the best men's physique competitors and classic physique competitor that there is. So you have Brandon Hendrickson up here in the top. You have Jeremy Buendia, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I always say it weird for some reason. And then you have Breon Ansley. All three have been Mr. Olympia at some point or another. In fact, Brandon still is Mr. Olympia. Brandon and Jeremy are primarily men's physique competitors, while Breon here in the corner is a former Mr. Olympia in the classic physique division. So you can see that he's just a little bit bigger than these other two guys muscle mass wise, and he's got some pretty dominant legs. Now, just like with most of these characters, with Ohma, we're just going to be looking at the upper front part of his torso. If we really wanted to break it down in a very strategic way from a bodybuilding perspective, it would be awesome to have Ohma in the 8 compulsory poses and 4 quarter turns that all bodybuilders get into. Except for the men's physique division. For some reason, they just do like 4 quarter turns, unless that's changed recently. I'm not sure. But with classic and open, they have the compulsory poses. So let's jump into the scoring with criteria number 1, which is muscle mass. Okay, so we're going to be looking at Ohma from more of a men's physique perspective than a classic physique, although I do think he would do really well in that division too. All right, so we're gonna start right here at the scoring with muscle mass. And as you can see, he is absolutely jacked, especially from a men's physique division. I mean, you look at Brandon up here and they look very comparable. I actually think Ohma has a slightly bigger chest than Brandon does. Brandon obviously though has better lats and I think better arms as well. Ohma's arms, there's a little something going on here. I don't know why, but Kengan characters' arms are drawn really strange. Their biceps and especially their triceps. If you look right over here, nothing really pops out about his triceps. It's very strange. He has great delts though, having said that, but his triceps don't really pop. His biceps are a little flat, and then his whole arm right here is very strange. It's weird. But other than that, his chest looks good, his traps look good, his abs obviously look phenomenal, and he's just really big in general. I'm gonna give him an 8 out of 10. Okay, so now going on to symmetry, as we can see, just like most characters, right down the middle, he looks good on both sides. Everything looks pretty symmetrical from all of these shots that I can see. I'm gonna go ahead and give him a 10 out of 10 on that as well. Like I said, it's hard to find asymmetry in characters or in professional bodybuilders unless you have like all of their poses and you can line them all up together. You won't see a whole lot of asymmetry. But if you were to look at like amateur bodybuilding competitions, you would see so much asymmetry, it would just really stand out to you and you would know exactly what you're looking for. And side note, if you like bodybuilding, anime, or fitness, then make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the other great content on this channel. Okay, so now we're moving on to the conditioning aspect. If we look at Ohma's chest, we can see some feathering. We can see distinct separation in all of his muscles. You can even see the brachialis right here, which is kind of the muscle basically between the biceps and the triceps. Actually, you know what? This is really interesting. I can't tell if that's the long head of the biceps and this is the brachialis or this top one is the brachialis. But whichever one it is, it's drawn very well. The muscular anatomy is pretty good in these drawings. I don't think it's quite as good as like Baki characters, but it's still really good. Okay, so obviously Ohma is absolutely ripped. Like I said, you can see all the muscular separation. You can see some feathering. You can't really see a lot of vascularity. Like I mentioned with Baki, I would have liked to seen a little bit more vascularity like we see in Brandon Hendrickson's arms up here. You can even see a lot in Jeremy's down here. And if this were a super high quality picture, you would definitely see a lot in Breon's. Even with a lower quality picture, you can see a lot of vascularity in his arms, even some in his legs down here. So I think Ohma's doing really well in conditioning, but it could be slightly better. I'm gonna go ahead and give him a 9 out of 10. And then his proportions, like I said, his arms are really off, and then his lats right here seem a little bit flat. That's something I've noticed with a lot of Kengan characters. You can even look in this shot down here, almost no lats at all. And when I say lats, it's this muscle up here in Brandon's, this muscle right here in Jeremy's, and this muscle in Breon. See how it just really flares flares out right there. It's like wings. And Ohma is just kind of lacking those. He's not doing a pose that would make them flare out or anything, but I have noticed that with a lot of Kengan characters, they are lacking lats quite a bit. So he's definitely lacking in some of those areas, but it really depends on the picture. Like you can see his arms look bad in this right side over here, but in this left side over here, it's not too bad. They look a little bit more proportionate. And I know there are other shots where he looks a little bit more proportionate as well. So I'm going to take off a few points, but not too much. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10, bringing Ohma's grand total to a 35 out of 40. So to answer the original question of if Ohma could be a bodybuilder or not, I would say in the men's physique division, he could definitely compete. And I even think he could compete at a high level. I've said this in a few earlier videos, but if a character gets about a 35 or higher, they could probably compete at a professional level. And in the classic physique division, I've definitely seen some shots where Ohma's legs are very dominant, and I think he would do well in the classic division as well. I'd probably rate him around a 35 as well. And if you've seen any of my short ratings and stuff, this may be just a bit different because we're going a little more in depth. I personally think that Baki characters have a better bodybuilding build than Kengan characters. But having said that, this guy still has a phenomenal physique. Anyone would be lucky to have this kind of physique. In fact, let me know if you'd like to have a physique like this in the comments below, and which character should I evaluate next.